Hello, everybody. I have a little bit of time before I start my next project, so I thought, what a great opportunity to take to go through another one of Eduardo Tarilonte's libraries. This time I'm tackling, I can't even speak, I should totally be doing this today. I am tackling ancient era Persia. Now, here's what I can tell you my knowledge of Persia is. There was a video game called Prince of Persia, and now you're up to speed. So I don't know anything about Persian music, which is fine. I do know the quality of Eduardo's libraries, so I thought I would dig into some sounds here and maybe sketch out some song ideas. So the first thing, of course, is I've got my template. I'm ready to go. Here it is. Here is Era. This is the engine. For those of you who are native instruments users, this is the best service version of Contact. And now you cannot load Contact libraries into it, but you can load engine libraries into it. And as you can see, I have a number of them. We're going to go to the top of the list here at Ancient Era Persia. Now we've got four categories, of course. We have instruments, loops, phrases, and soundscapes. Soundscapes are always my favorite because Eduardo was always so creative on what he comes up with. This will probably be a little bit shorter of a video today. I'm going to see if I can get through this in 1 cup of coffee, which the way I drink coffee, that's kind of laughable. I always like to start with percussion. So let's just go through the list as they appear. I wouldn't necessarily do this in order this way for a regular composition, but I'm just going to see what kind of ideas I come up with based on some random sounds that I pick within Ancient Era Persia. I will have a link in the show notes to where you can purchase this wonderful sound library. I have played with it before, but I don't think I've written anything with it yet. So let's just dig in right off the bat. So for percussion, we have a bunch of stuff I'm not familiar with and some stuff that I am familiar with. I don't know what a bender is, so let's start with that. Let's just dig into territories unknown. It's always the best thing you can do. I love this beautiful interface. The Egyptian looking guy with the very serious cat like eyes. I love the glow of this light on the wings at the title spot on the top, and really the way that it highlights different spots on this gold helmet. I think that's really cool. Very, very visually beautiful. Now, of course, my eyes suck, so I cannot read this even on my giant screen, but you can see we have things like volume, panning, and all kinds of effects here in these sections. We're going to play with these different things as we go through, maybe not. We've got info, which always tells us about our instrument. Just by looking at it, I can tell that this is, sort of a hand drum, something you would probably tap on or maybe bang with the tips of multiple fingers at the same time. Eduardo's given us, as always, this interesting little read up on it. I will let you guys do that on your own time. If you want that to go away, you just click on that again and it goes away. Also, we have tune, which for this particular sound is not accessible, which is okay. That's how it goes. So first thing we want to do is we want to look at what sounds are available. So we've got this area right here, and we're just going to test here and see what this sounds like. Wow. Okay, that's really, really nice. I love that. Okay, I think it's interesting if we start with this one, but I am wondering if our tempo is going to be enough. We'll find out in just a minute. I'm going to start this at 120 beats per minute, but as you guys know, I never just randomly select patches without labeling them properly. So that's how I know what's on that track. But also, when I go back to do this, we're going to go Ancient Era Persia. Our patch was in instruments, percussion. Well, it would help if I could spell right. So just expand that out a little bit, expand that out a little bit, and we're just going to put percussion. Because when I go back to look at this later, I might not remember what all these instruments are because they're not ones that I'm always going to be familiar with, especially with the more ethnic libraries where I don't have that knowledge. But I think we can just lay down like maybe a basic bed to start with and just see where it goes. We'll see if the tempo is going to be enough or not. I don't know. Let's see what we got. I love the way that rings out. That is so cool. Okay, so there's our, kind of a bed. We got to have some kind of starting point. And since I don't have a song in mind, since we're just kind of flying blind here, I think that's a good place to start. So now we'll go to the second slot. This is for channel number 2. We use this drop down right here. We go back to ancient era Persia. We go to instruments, and we might add some more percussion later. We'll see. Again, this is just sketching out some ideas, playing with sounds, seeing if there's a song in there. We got bowed strings and plucked strings. Let's start with plucked strings. And how about, of course, I have no idea what these are either. We'll go with the Baglamalo. I also have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. So we've got instruments, strings, plucked strings. And over here, this will be, so I'm recording in the MIDI track, by the way. This will be the track that will eventually bounce to if it gets to that point. And that will be the audio. So when we go to mix, I really can't type and talk at the same time. When we go to mix, that's the only track that's going to be left because the MIDI tracks get hidden. And when I go to mix them, I'm only looking at the audio track. So it's important that I put the name there so that when I bounce to that track, I know what I'm getting. So let's take a listen here and see what we've got. Just listen to that ring out. What a beautifully captured sound. Again, don't know anything about this instrument at all. It's a Turkish string instrument. Okay. I've seen it or seen something similar to it, but I'm not familiar with it. Certainly would not have guessed that it would have had that deep and rich of a sound. And remember, we're working on the plucked instrument side here. So let's see what we got here. I don't know if this is shaping up to be anything at all, by the way. I'm just playing with ideas, just using this as a, sort of a sketch pad for the moment, and so that we can hear some sounds. But now let's go ahead and add another string and see what we're dealing with here. Each and every instrument strings, and we'll do a bowed string this time. Ooh, Lyra 1. We'll go with that. Okay, got to keep my spreadsheet up to date. Don't want to fall behind on that because, you know, if I have to go back, then I'm not going to remember where I got these, where all these sounds were necessarily. Although they're organized so well, it's kind of hard. Like, how could you possibly forget? But at my age, I tend to wonder. Okay, so we've got this. Let's hear how it sounds. Oh, beautiful. And that huge, lush reverb. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. So we get the different articulations here. Okay. Let's see. Let's throw something on here. No, that was awful. Just awful. You know, you don't have to tell me it was awful because I know. Okay, got a little something going. So, you know, every once in a while I like to save my file, just make sure I don't lose any of this clearly brilliant work. But mainly, you know, we're not necessarily trying to write a great piece of music. We're really just listening to some sounds and seeing what they inspire along the way. So that brings us to our next track here. We'll go ahead and go to track 4 and let's see what we can dig into. Sticking with instruments for now. We got strings, we got percussion. Let's go to wind. Okay, the duduk is that's an instrument I'm very familiar with. Turkish clarinet, I can kind of guess. I know what a ney flute is. Let's go with the Zorna and see, because I have absolutely no idea what that is. Let's find out. Oh, okay. Would have helped if I would remember to turn my heater off too. I didn't. I meant to, and then I got distracted by shiny things before I started recording. So, Zorna, Z-O-U-R-N-A. I'm not sure how to pronounce that unless I said it right. Zorna, very possible. I'm not sure. But I'm going to be interested to see how it sounds. This would be a wind instrument. All right, let's see what we're working with here. Reminds me of some of those older martial arts movies, like from the 70s, where the music was really ethnic, but you didn't really necessarily feel it was Oriental. But I know some of these instruments are similar to some Oriental instruments too, so that could very much be on par. I see we have some different utilities here. Let's see. Okay, that's more of a vibrato. That's more smooth. Okay, I like the smooth one more for now. Okay, let's see what we got. definitely didn't work. Okay, so we can redo that part. Just because I'm not going to have you guys listen to, I mean, you know, this isn't the greatest piece of music, but I'm not going to have you guys listen to absolute crap along the way. What I've noticed here is that this instrument is a little bit louder than the rest. So maybe we can turn the master volume down a bit. Let's hear how it sounds while we do that. Okay, that's not bad. And maybe we should pan it a little bit. Maybe pan that a little bit to the left, and then we'll go back to this one and go to the right, since they're more opposing instruments. Did I go too far? I may have gone too far. Let's see. Okay, I like that better. I think that works nicely. So that is the Zorna. Very cool. It's got a beautiful sound to it. Nice, deep and rich. Of course, that, you know, that classic Eduardo reverb that he puts on things, man, I just love it. Every sound just sounds so epic. Okay, so where does that bring us now? So we've got the winds covered. So that will cover our instruments for the moment. I'm going to bypass loops for just a little bit, and I'm going to bypass phrases and go to soundscapes, because we all know how much I love soundscapes. I love them. Interesting names. You never know. You just never know. So let's start with Ancient Ruins. That sounds very interesting. Now, usually at this point, I will not add the sounds until after I've auditioned them, to kind of, you know, if I don't like it and I've already typed it, then I have to undo that, or I'll get lazy and feel obligated. So I don't want to do that. What I'd rather do is just play the sound and see what we're working with. Okay, I think we need to insert some measures then and make that more of an opening. No, I don't want tempos. Okay, I want to insert 4 measures starting at the very beginning. Boom, just like that. Wham! So I know I'm going to keep this one now. Okay. Keeping up on my spreadsheet. You guys don't need to watch how bad I type, so there's no point in showing you that. But let's check out how we can blend this in a little bit. just listen to that ring out. That is so awesome. Okay. Now going up next, let's move on to the next section, because what I've written now may or may not work with these other beds and things that we're going to try. So for track 6, let's go into something I don't use a lot personally, so I don't have much experience with these. Let's go into loops. We'll start with MIDI loops, or I'm sorry, we'll start with the audio loops. We've got a bender in here already, so we're really looking at percussion right now. Let's see. We're at 120 BPM, so we need to find something ranged around there. So let's just check this one. So this is the Tomback loops. And of course, whoops, didn't mean to solo that. We'll go over here and do the same thing as always, but we want to go back to our track and let's see what we've got to play with here. Okay, so that's pretty active. So we're going to go ahead and just add those in. So kind of interesting spot. So I'm just going to go back a measure so we can hear those last couple measures of percussion as we go into this. So I'm not the cleanest with loops because, as I've said many times, I don't use them. But one thing I do know about loops is that if you're going to work with them, they need to be absolutely starting on the beat. Otherwise, it throws everything off. So I just moved that so that it caught on the 27th measure. And then because I moved that, this might be a little bit off. So I just went ahead and reset that. So now we're going to hold off on going back because I want to see what one of these MIDI loops does and see what the difference is between the two. No, I just wanted to save it, that's all. I really just wanted to save it. There. Okay, so that's channel 6. So channel 7 for the MIDI loop, let's see what we've got. Because I'm really not sure what the difference is, to be honest. Let's try the Darabuka at, do we have one at 120? Okay, I'm not sure what those numbers correlate to. All right, well, if these are 240, then 120 should divide into these pretty easy. So we'll go with the Reek number 1. So this is loops, MIDI loops. Okay, so let's see what we're working with here. Wow, there is a lot of green. Okay, those are all just single sounds. Okay, so the green ones are going to be the loops. So the white ones here are just individual shots. Okay. Then actually we can go back here for this and add it over that last loop. I didn't realize I had actually gone past the measure on that loop earlier. That can be a problem for some loops, so I'm just going to dial that back a little bit. Now, of course, if I'm working on this as a serious song, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and smooth that out a little bit. Whether I do it with quantizing or replay it, that would not be my final take. But for the moment, that's definitely what I want to do. So I'll probably cut out that little cymbal bit, or maybe what I would do is I would break this into 2 tracks, and that cymbal was a little bit loud for me compared to the drum. So I would probably break that out, maybe lower the volume or just rewrite the piece, because I'm not sure I like that. Once I hit that key and heard that was in there, I thought I'd keep it in there for the rhythm, but I'm not sure I would keep that in the song either way, but I would probably break it out just to have it on its own separate volume slider, or I could go into the MIDI event list and I could just change the volume of those notes. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the MIDI event list, depends. I'm sure all the DAWs have them. I really don't know because I've really only worked with this one. But basically, this is going to tell you, per track, what all the notes are, how hard the velocity was, and how long the sustain is. So you can go in and edit all that. You could change the note to something different completely, however you wanted to do it. So that's one way to alter that data. Another way would just be to just re-record the track or re-record that section or whatever. So I don't know that I'd keep those cymbals in an actual recording, but they're certainly an option. And I like that they're there. I like the sound of them, but in the balance of the drum, they might be a little bit much for what I tend to go for. For other people, that's perfect. And you may use another instrument to accent those and thicken that sound up a little bit. Maybe put something more explosive behind it. All kinds of options. But that is our MIDI loop track. So now we're going to go to our next track and let's see what we've got to play with. So we've got phrases. We haven't gone into phrases yet, and these may be similar to loops, but these are more melodic. So the loops are going to be percussive. The phrases are going to be more melodic. So let's work with something that we haven't worked with yet. Let's work with this. K-O-P-U-Z, Copas, phrases. I'm going to say... So I'm going to guess that's melodic. We will find out. And so for those of you that think I've just been typing away at nothing, nope, I'm keeping it going. Again, was trying to not subject you to my horrible typing, but there you have it. Oh, also, I'm not sure I showed this in the beginning. I always have the title. I don't normally put in the date until I finish the piece, but since I'm not going to finish this today, I'm just going to put this in there as a temporary date. When I've copywritten it, my name, if there was somebody I was working with, I would put their name in it as well. The tempo, the key, because right now, for the most part, I'm working in C major. If I'm dedicating this to something like a project, like let's say I'm using this for a film score, then I would put the name of the film score there or the name of the album if it was going to be on an album. And then the time, that doesn't get filled into the end because I have no idea how long the piece is going to be. But let's get back to our phrases. So we have a few available here. Let's see what we've got. that's beautifully just gentle playing. Wow. Wow, those are beautiful. I'm not sure they're going to fit into this piece, but let's give it a shot. What the hell? I picked it. I even typed it. So let's go from there. Maybe as a transition here. Let's go back a bit. No, it doesn't really work, does it? Maybe this could be something after this, and we could fit it in later. We can always modify the piece to kind of just fade out like that. And I think that going out of that position, this might have worked, but coming into this percussion, yeah, it doesn't really work. So let's try it here and let's see what we got. Go back a couple of measures so we know where we're at, because it's not like I really know the song that well as I'm just writing it. The other thing that's interesting is that there were no tempos. So it might auto sync. I'm not sure. Or did I just miss the tempo? The nice thing is when you go back on, so you can tell which slots are open and which slots you pick sounds on based on what you have here. Because if I picked a different era, for example, like let's say I pick Celtic era 2 and I pick a sound, of course I have to go to the longest one, it's going to show that menu, right? So we just clear that out. So you know which slots are taken by which instruments without having to dig into it at all, which is really nice. But if you want to know what you selected already, instead of having to figure out what the path flow was, you just go back to that instrument and you can see you checked this, you checked this, you checked this. And that makes it really convenient for what I'm doing now, is because some composers may want to go back and write down all the patches. They might not want to interrupt their workflow. And so this is a nice way to just be able to go back and trace what patches you were and what the full path flow of that was. A lot of my other companies that I use their libraries, you don't get that. So you don't know, you have to go back and dig and figure out what was the path flow. And if you're 5-6 menus deep to get a particular sound, then that doesn't necessarily work. So for this, let's try something. Let's go to our Lyra 1 phrases, because that's the instrument that we were using earlier. And we'll change this here. Maybe there's something in here that will work a little bit better than what we were using. Maybe not. Let's see what happened. Yeah, it doesn't really work. And see, again, I don't write a lot with loops, so these are things that are fairly uncommon for me. I think I can work that in as a bridge, though. Let's see. That actually worked better. But it is a little bit quiet, so I want to raise the volume up on that a little bit. Let's see. Okay, that works a little bit better actually. So let's go back and check out everything we've got because, we've been working on these little different pieces, so I'm not sure where everything's at. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. Gives us a starting place for sure. Now let's go back here. Let's see. That was percussion. That was percussion. We'll go back to our lyra or lyra, whichever it is. And since this is what we used for the transition, now we'll go back and fill in some stuff here and see if we can get something. All right. Oh, it would help if I was on the right sound, wouldn't it? Okay. Like the first half sounded almost like a funeral dirge, right? And then this part's like a little more lively and exciting, gives a little more to work with. So it's interesting how this is taking shape. Yeah, I'm still not sure about those little symbols there. But one thing that I want to do, and I'm one of those people as an engineer. I tend a lot to mix as I go, so at least to some extent. So I'm going to set the pan, I think, on this one a little more to the left, and then this percussion a little more to the right. Maybe not that much. Let's see if that sounds better. Ah. Oh, well, that doesn't help to play in a spot that doesn't work. So see, what happened was I realized this. I was on this one. So no matter what channel I'm recording on, this is going to be the one that I'm playing off of. So what I really should have done is I should have moved this over here. And I do this a lot. And I have to go back and fix things you'd think I'd learn, but you want to arm the track, but you also want to be on that track because you're not actually sending signal through that track. So I was playing on keys that weren't making any sound. It will register MIDI data because it's just saying, hey, you hit the C2 or the C3 key, and that's all it's picking up, but it's not actually attached to any sound. So what I need to do is attach it to actual sounds. That's right, it wasn't even a percussion track. See? That's what happens when you're getting cocky. All right, let's try something. Okay, so that's why that pan wasn't working, or I wasn't hearing anything off of it, but now the volume's like way too loud for this guy, right? Okay, that's not too bad. Shaping up to be a little bit of something. Let's see, this was our woodwind, I believe. Maybe we'll just add just a little something simple in the second half of this. Just a little something, you know, nothing too major there. So what have we got? We've got 8 tracks so far. Let's hear this masterpiece after we save it, of course. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking those cymbals would belong on another track, but I think we're missing one more thing that I'm going to add before we wrap up. And, you know, because I'm such a big fan of Eduardo's soundscapes, I think I'm going to add one more in here to back this section up. So let's find our next available slot. Should be slot 9, and it is. So we're going to go back to ancient Persia. We're going to go to soundscapes. Boy, you know, you really don't know until you get in and play with them. And I could honestly spend an entire day just playing through these. Sands of Time, Underworld, Winds of Prayer. But you know what? This is a happier time. This is kind of a celebration section of a song. So I'm going to give Oasis a shot. Let's see what that sounds like. it's got a little bit of a lyrical phrase in there. That might be a little too much specifics for what I'm looking for this particular spot. So let's try. Doomed Sands doesn't really sound like it would match, does it? Desert Ghost, Desert Echoes, Ruins we used already. Scorpion Stinger. Let's go down to Wind of Prayer, although I think. Oh, I accidentally selected Whipping Desert, so maybe it's Fate. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. Let's just see. Well, actually, I might as well record it, because if I accidentally come up with something great, I don't want to lose it. I think that's quite working for me for this. So let's pick something else. We'll go back to soundscapes, and how about Sand Temple. We'll give that a shot. I love these names, by the way. I can imagine that it's really difficult to just sit there and keep coming up with names for these things, because they're very intriguing, they're very on point. But at the same point, it's like, okay, sand is a good topic. How many things can I say about sand and make sounds that seem reasonably related to that name? That's got to be one of the hardest things. I'll have to ask Eduardo. This might work. I'm comfortable enough to actually type that in. Okay, I had to update my spreadsheet because you guys that know me well enough know I would have to do that. God, I love that, Decay. If I end up turning this into an actual song, I'm going to have to end it with that, because that is just so beautiful the way that rings out. Now, I played a couple of those notes a little harsh, so I would go back and clean those up, but let's see how that sounded without the click. Okay, that's definitely got some potential. While I'm here, let me go ahead and save that. And I'll play it one more time before we wrap up, so we can just kind of, hear the whole thing. But I think what would be nice is if we, checked out a couple of these other sounds in here, because there's some really good stuff. And I hate to only show you the stuff that I picked. Let's see here for wind. We had the Persian ney flute. Now I know that more as an Egyptian instrument, the ney flute. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's been Persian the whole time because I don't know that much about that. Listen to the detail. I mean, you really feel like you're like the instrument's almost playing inside your head. That is just gorgeous. And so, okay, so that is different because the ney flute that I know definitely sounds a lot more like our lira. So, curious the Turkish clarinet though. And again, you can always tell when it's changed over sounds because you will see the name change right there. Wow. The detail on that is fantastic. I absolutely love it. Really beautiful sound, too, I have to say. Let's see. Now, you guys know I'm not big on loops and phrases, so I'm not really going to dig into that too much, but I will go back to the soundscapes because I'm curious what a couple of these, like desert loneliness, sounds like. And here, as you notice, we've got all white keys from one end to the other, so they're all playable. Oh, that is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. We'll do one more soundscape. What should we do? How about Forbidden Sands? Just sounds so forbidden. Wait, was that the last one I picked? No, I don't think it was. It's very similar though. Let's pick a different one then. We'll go with Temple of the Undead. That sounds good. Holy crap. That is dark. But it's kind of mechanic the way I was playing it at first, kind of machine like. I like that. Kind of like some, an evil factory or something like that. Really cool. Now I want to do one more just because I did that one. That was a really cool one. I know they're all probably very cool, but I want to find one more. Let's see. That was Temple of the Undead. World of the Dead. Let's try that. World of the Dead. I mean, all the time, his soundscapes are they're just lush and huge and absolutely amazing. If you don't need them to be as big, that's okay. You can dial down the volume a little bit. You can maybe play one note instead of multiple notes that are going to really bring out that full spectrum. So lots of options, but I love that they're just so. I mean, they're of all the pad sounds and soundscapes that I have, Eduardo's are like just these giant worlds, each and of their own, and I've always loved that. So before we wrap it up, and again, this was just a sketch, an opportunity to go through some of these sounds, see what this thing can do, share that with you guys. Let's listen to this one more time. I may or may not someday develop this into a song. I can tell you all the ones so far, all the videos that I've done since I started doing these as sketches instead of walkthroughs, and people seem to like those more. I have not yet turned into songs, but I've also been very busy with podcasts and other projects. So let's check this one out. I think I would probably smooth out that transition, um, really look at where to put those symbols and make them work better for the song. They might just be too early in the celebration. Maybe that's part of why they're standing out to me so much, but I do think they are a bit louder than the rest of that sound. Yeah, I think it's a decent start for something. I think it's a sketch. I think we have something tangible to work with, and I don't always feel that way when I do these kinds of things. So yeah, I think it's got some potential. But ancient era Persia is a beautiful library, as you guys can hear. Exactly the standard that Eduardo has set for himself. You can get it on Best Service website, and I think there are multiple best service websites depending on what region of the world that you're in. But if you go to your Google and type in best service and maybe VST, or type in best service Eduardo, I'm sure it'll come up in your country if the link that I have in the show notes or in the podcast. I'm so used to saying podcast. In the video on YouTube here, if that link doesn't work for you, then just try and Google search it. But I know that they have one for America. I think there's a different one for Germany, and I'm not sure all which else they have. So if you have any problems finding it, reach out to me. Of course, you can always email me at scott@scotthaskin.com. That's the easiest place to find me. You can leave comment too on the video. A lot of times I get those notifications. I find out that I don't always get them, but I seem to a majority of the time. So if you've left a comment and you haven't heard in a couple of days, then go ahead and email me. Again, that's scott@scotthaskin.com. Should be fairly easy to find me there. But thanks, guys, for hanging out with me for an hour and doing this video. This is a lot of fun. It's such a great and versatile library. And for somebody who does not know this region or this style of music or musical instruments, it's pretty easy to find some stuff to work with, like right off the bat, because Eduardo's libraries are always very playable and really are consistent, so that when you're using stuff from one library, you can pretty much interchange any sounds or put any combination of sounds together, and they're going to sound like they're all part of the same world. The soundscapes obviously are your variable, but even with them, the tonality of them works for these instruments. And I guarantee that if I were to put in some, Era 2 or some of these other libraries and mix them in with this, they would all sound very, very consistent and work very beautifully together, because that's just how Eduardo records and processes his sounds. So great job, Eduardo. Thank you for this beautiful library. I'm sure that a lot of people have been composing great things with it and will continue to, and maybe you guys will too. Check it out. Links in the bottom. I'll see you guys later. Thanks. Bye.